My favorite thing about that intro is that it says season 3, even though it feels like we've been doing this for like a day, and every live stream is like our first live stream in terms of how we manage the chaos.
Yeah, I guess I kind of forget this is our third.
This is our third year of doing live streams.
I still think it's funny you call them seasons.
I found them easier to break up that way.
I mean, it's fine.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, happy Tuesday.
Tim says audio is good for Tim and Katie audio.
Excellent.
Would hate for it to be good for someone else's audio.
Well,
and then ours be terrible.
I think Tim's alluding to the fact that we have a guest tonight.
We do have a guest tonight.
Yes.
I was also just saying stuff.
Their audio
wasn't really a point
will be good too. It was.
We're gonna go ahead and bring on our special guest because we've made the mistake before of leaving people backstage for an eternity. So we will introduce our good friend, Francis. Of Dream Finding with Francis. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello and welcome.
This is your first time on the Tim and Katie live stream, but far from your first time on YouTube.
Yes. Well, first time like this. I know you guys in the comments sometimes when I'm available.
Yes.
I was going to say, I was like, we've never had Francis participate.
Our friend Tim says audio is good for you too. So we're all good.
There was for some backstory, there was a time where we got on and we had no audio and we went for like 5 minutes.
That was like our third live stream ever. Like 5.5 minutes of just like
silence of like miming. So now
like really expressively too. Like we were all over the place.
Yeah, it was awful. And then finally we realized they can't hear us.
Nope.
So.
Yeah, people were dropping comments the whole time saying, hey, no one can hear you. And we were just ignoring them because we were like, we have to get through all of this so quickly. We'll check comments later. Oh. So
anyway.
Good to have you, Francis. Francis is, and you may dispute this, Francis, but I am going to refer to you as a social media expert.
Okay.
Certainly you know a lot more than we do because of the nature of what you do and what you've done for the past, I don't even know how long. And you give us a lot of pointers all the time.
5-ish years?
5-ish? Okay.
I mean, 6 years?
That makes sense. That tracks. I mean, we go to Francis for a lot of social media questions ourselves, and she's given us plenty of tips. And I will go ahead and disclaim right at the beginning that we don't always follow them. So we are
I don't follow my own either.
They're more like guidelines than actual rules.
There you go. The pirate's defense.
Yes.
So let's dive right in because I don't want to be disrespectful of anybody's time. We do have socials of our own, and usually I'll go through each and every one and talk about which ones we do which things on. But tonight, that's kind of the point of the live stream. So I won't dwell on it. We're The Real Tim and Katie on Instagram and Threads. We're Tim and Katie on Facebook. And we also have a website, which is timandkatie.net. You are dream finding with Francis on pretty much everything, right?
Yep. Branding.
I ran through very quickly and I tried to make sure there's no like underscores. No, it's dream finding.
Branding purposes. We claimed that sucker up real fast.
There you go.
Nice.
You have brand consistency.
Yep.
Which I'm sure helps.
Yeah.
We do not.
More than we. Well, here's the thing. When we went to go and grab Tim and Katie on Instagram, we thought we were being clever by shortening it down to TIMANDKT. First of all, that's one word and it should be really easy to get, but for some reason the KT and the merging of the word trips people up. And when people type in Tim and Katie, like our full names in there, they get someone in Canada, which perfectly lovely couple, but definitely not us. And people are often coming. That's why we had to start adding.
Nope.
Why you had to make.
Because they had already grabbed that one. Yeah. Actually, the handle on Instagram belongs to a wonderful elderly couple in, I think, Ireland. So,
yep,
that's the thing. You got to have, and we'll talk all about brand consistency and defining a niche and all of that. And Francis has a lot more to say on that than we do. But we definitely have stories to share on our failures. So, real quick. And I do genuinely mean real quick because we can sometimes spend a lot of time on this. We do have some park news for you all. Anyone who has been following us for a while will know that we like to talk about some of the latest stuff that's just dropped. And I've honestly, like over the last 48 hours, I've had to update the slideshow like 3 or 4 times because there's just more and more stuff. Most of this pertains to the Orlando area. Actually, I think all of it does tonight. But sometimes we'll branch out into other like international parks that we are interested in or we care about, or big news in the theme park industry. There's mostly been Orlando news this week. So over the past 2 weeks, we've had announcements on the official opening date for Tiana's Bayou Adventure in the Magic Kingdom, not the Disneyland version, which still has a quote-unquote 2024 opening date. But in the Magic Kingdom, we do have June 28th as our official opening. D23 annual pass holders and what's the last category? DVC. You can all book early, but it sounds like Francis was in that queue and had a run of bad luck trying to get a hold of
D23 probably sold out within 10 or 15 minutes of that queue going live last Thursday. The pass holder line went really, really quick. So if you're able to get a reservation for like the 6 states, you still have to virtual queue it. And Vacation Club, you had to have a stay booked to get the link for that. And I'm not sure what weekend it was.
Yep. And that's usually the way of things. The previews are highly inconvenient. But if you are one of those special groups, you can get access to the special previews. As Francis said, they may already be sold out. So I cannot confirm or deny. We will not make it down in time for previews, so we didn't even try, and we knew we weren't going to try. So it wasn't a big hassle for us. But if you're one of those select few, there is still a window. You could roll the dice and see what happens. Otherwise, come June 28th, this will be open to everyone by way of virtual queue or Genie Plus. Not individual Lightning Lane, but Genie Plus. It will be on that. You'll still have to play a little bit of a raffle to get that particular time slot. So that's coming soon. Disneyland's no formal announcement date, but we know it's going to be in 2024. We hope soon. We also have the, what's it called? Dreams That Soar at Disney Springs, the drone show.
Yeah.
Disney Dreams That Soar, I think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone else would know this better than I will. This is a brand new drone show coming to Disney Springs, and we know that they have been testing very recently, and this is going to drop sometime this summer. So this will be a very exciting little...
I think it's going, I don't know the exact dates, but like June through September.
Yeah. It's not going to stay. It's a limited time engagement. So this is a special thing specifically for people who come to Disney Springs. If you're unfamiliar with Disney in Orlando, this is an opportunity for you to see something cool and Disney level for what's ostensibly free. It doesn't cost a park ticket to walk into Disney Springs. You just park and you walk in and you enjoy shopping. Yes, I said ostensibly. You can calm yourself down. It's like my favorite word.
Tim picks a favorite word and he uses it a lot for like 6 months, and it makes me happy.
Yeah. So that's going to be coming up this summer, and we're super excited to see what that's like. We've seen a lot of really great content, we've seen a lot of great shows and spectaculars from Disney using drones overseas, in particular at Disneyland Paris.
In the States.
I don't know. Have they done some in Disneyland in California? Maybe I'm making that up. I don't think they've ever
used drones.
Might just be Disneyland Paris so far.
Paris.
So this will be new for the States, certainly for the Orlando area. Hey, keeping up in Disney.
They had a Christmas drone show before I moved down here.
Did they? Okay.
I could be misremembering that, but there was a drone show in Springs before, very, very short-lived. I want to say during Christmas.
Okay,
in like
so
the
this is a tested and proven concept then.
2018, 2019 timeframe.
Sounds good.
That makes sense.
That sounds like it could be. I had no idea, but I would trust your historical knowledge over ours.
I'm like vaguely like remembering, like hearing something about it, but I also have these weird flashbacks about the Tapestry of Nations parade in Epcot, and I keep thinking that was a fever dream that I don't remember as a child, because I'll hear the song and be like, why do I know this?
Oh, there's a lot of Mandela effect stuff with my childhood memories of Disney. Like, I swear I remember the exact placement of things in the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground that were probably way off. Like, everything was probably half the size I expected it to be. Anyway, this is a
I'm excited for this.
Yeah, this will be fun.
I think this is a nice, like, the fact that it's in Springs, you don't have, it can be a nice, like, non-park day thing, or like a arrival date thing for people coming to visit in the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, however long that goes.
A brief window, but if it's successful, I wager that we'll be seeing more drone stuff.
Maybe they'll bring a Christmas show back. That would be cool.
That would be neat. We also have, this one's just for you, Francis, because I'll be honest, I'm not a big Country Bears fan, but we did have a sneak peek at the revised Country Bears show coming to the Magic Kingdom. I say revised, I really mean reimagined, because I don't think they're going to be one for one what they were.
I mean,
I have a love-hate relationship with this announcement. I think this was the one that got me the most at D23 when I was sitting there, that like stunned me and I was like couldn't form words. Don't get me wrong, Country Bears is not Disney appropriate, and that was my favorite thing during my college program, was taking people to go ride it for the first time and watching their face go, what are they singing about? How is this here? And it was always like an AC ride. And then as a kid, like when I understood the songs, it was like, oh, this is funny and cute. And they're country songs from the 70s. They're actual country songs that existed. So I have no memories of like the country songs, but like I have memories of the show. Was it outdated? Yes. Did it need to go with the refreshed idea of Frontierland? Yes. But there's a part of me that is going to miss Big Al interrupting and the talk of turning people on and the talk of violence and the talk of alcohol. So I'm happy that they're not getting rid of it completely, because this and Tokyo are the only place that Country Bear exists anymore.
Mhm.
So I'm happy it's not getting like the full like guttural removal, but I'm very sad that it's not the Bears. But it just gives me a reason to go to Tokyo, because Tokyo still has a pretty original version of the show, minus their 2 overlays.
Yeah, Tokyo at the moment also retains its current version of Splash Mountain, and I don't think they have plans to tear it down or reimagine it anytime soon, because we all know, or most of us know, that the Tokyo parks like to be very unique. So as long as they can hold on,
they also own the full rights to their parks.
Exactly.
So they have to do what
They
Disney
can do whatever
says.
they want. Which is why you'll never see quite as much of a revenue investment in some of the attractions. Not to say that Disney doesn't spend money, but we'll never have Fantasy Springs in the domestic parks, because that kind of expansion requires a significant investment at the possibility of extensive loss, especially at the front.
The theme park nerd in me just wants to see the technology in those attractions. That looks phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We could go off on Fantasy Springs for like an hour and a half, believe you me. The Peter Pan ride, I'm not thrilled with. But the Frozen ride, I'm like, I have to be there. All right, to bring it back to Country Bears,
we're staying on Country Bears?
Well, just to close it out, they're not going to be running the original show anymore. This is your first look at the modified animatronics with new costumes, with new songs coming, and I believe those songs are going to be all IP based. They're going to be like
they're going to be
classic
like
Disney
Bare
songs,
and stuff like that,
instead of what they were singing previously,
Blood on the Saddle,
which was very hit or miss. So we don't have an official reopening date, but we know it's going to be this year, and we got a sneak peek with the new costumes and all of that. So that was our little minor news bump that I had to include just for Francis. So, moving to a different park, but still in Orlando, this is a very soft announcement, and I'm sorry to say this is not an announcement about Penguin Trek specifically, which has already been delayed from spring 2024 to just 2024. But we do have an official announcement of a soft opening of the Antarctica area, which has been rethemed, opened up. Part of it's been demoed. They've added and revisited some restaurants and some bars. All of that will be opening without the roller coaster, but including the Penguin exhibit itself in May of this year. I believe May 25th is their official opening date, which is only like a couple days away. So if you're going to Orlando anytime soon and you want to check this out, be aware that the coaster's not open, but all the rest of this should be by the end of next week.
I wonder if there'd be Snope. It looks like in the promotional image there's Snope.
I don't know. Going to Halloween Horror Night stuff, which is exciting for a lot of people. I will just touch on this really, really quick because we don't have any other information about any of these houses but what has already been posted on the website. We did get our first announcement at Spooky Empire for our first house at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando, a sequel to Slaughter Cinema called Slaughter Cinema 2. That is going to be a whole house themed around. Some of the icons did come from like the Slaughter Cinema original.
Yeah, I that house we never did.
No, we didn't start going to Halloween Horror Nights until
Like
relatively
3 years
recently.
ago or
So we were late to the game. But this is a sequel which may birth new icons,
It
which
seemed
everyone's excited
to be a popular announcement with fans.
It's an original
longtime
house.
fans.
It's a bunch of vignettes featuring different like horror archetypes. And again, like the original icons, some of the icons were born from the original Slaughter Cinema, some of the current icons. So this could birth new icons, or it could be a revisitation of old icons. We don't yet know, but we do know that it was one house announcement at May that we were expecting in probably like February, given last year. So people are pretty excited about it.
And then
Followed up immediately by 2 more, Goblin's Feast, in which you are the feast. You are invited to dinner, and they can't wait to have you, quote unquote. And then immediately after Major Sweets Candy Factory,
which was a scare zone last year.
well, Mayor Sweet, Mayor McSweet, or whatever.
Sorry, the same concept was a scare zone.
They basically built a house out of a concept that wound up being very popular as a scare zone. So that will be exciting. Francis, I don't think you do Halloween Horror Nights, do you? Or do you?
I don't like spooky. I like Yuki's not so scary Halloween party.
How did we find each other again?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like you know SpongeBob, where it's like Weenie Hut Jr. Like I'm in Super Weenie Hut Jr.
One step down from the weenies is the Weenie Hut Junior.
Anything we've learned from our haunt industry friends is that there's a lot of overlap between like pure love of Disney and like love of haunt, like scary, spooky things.
Because
like I love theme parks. I share that passion with you guys. I just don't like to be scared.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
And you follow that all the way through too, because you're not a big coaster person either. So which is where most of like the thrill attractions are. So
I still say, I don't know if you told Katie this, but I still stand by that one day I'm going to vlog as you guys, and I'm just going to send you the footage.
That'll be great. I'm super excited to see that.
I haven't even experienced this, and I do things like this, and it's just me on like a kiddie coaster.
Okay. So that is all of our park news for right now. I will mention the one more thing that Tim brought up, which was news from Hershey Park Dark Nights. I didn't forget. It just dropped today, and I didn't have time to add it.
Oh, okay.
So we had an announcement a while back from Hershey Park that they were going to be demoing a house from not demoing, getting rid of a house from the past 2 years, Dark Nights, which is their new Halloween event, Halloween Haunt, and moving that to a different house. So we have a new house called, I believe it's a State of Fear. I might be confusing that with an actual haunt, because there is an actual haunt called a State of Fear.
Manor. Oh, it's like a spooky house.
It's a spooky house, and they gave it a kind of backstory this morning.
Yeah.
Which
Tim and I were Tim and I were discussing and kind of giving like a den of darkness from a Field of
States
Dreams.
of Evil. There we go. Yep.
So that is exciting.
We will no longer, for those of you who know about Dark Nights or attended last year, we will no longer have the Creatures Uncaged house, which was never a house. It was more of an outside arena,
trail.
like a walkthrough. I liked it, but it did have some drawbacks.
And it was basically most effective only after dark, which meant it was kind of not as fun to go through for like 2 to 3 hours of the event.
Yeah,
so.
And you can go and we did a whole vlog for 2 years in a row on Dark Nights. You can go back and look. They do allow you to come through with a camera as long as you don't have a light. So we did have some footage from those houses, or in that case, the trail. And you can see kind of what it was like. I think it's a good decision, probably. If you had to get rid of one, that's the one I would get rid of. And I'm super excited to see what they do with Estates of Evil.
Estates of Evil does sound very...
I like a good
house. Haunted. Like, I know that haunted house is a stupid thing to say when you're talking about haunts, but like I like a good like spooky haunted house, like Haunted Mansion.
And we forgot to say hi to Kaylee.
Hi Kaylee.
Hi Kaylee.
Thanks
Welcome
for joining.
All right, so I'm going to close out our theme park news there. We could go into rumors, but then I know Francis would have to sit there like. Have to like do straight face.
No,
you didn't send me the slide with the penguins. And I went crap.
Fair enough.
we just skirted right by that.
Yeah.
So we're like, it's not happening.
We'll get
anytime soon.
into very quickly here what Frances actually does and why it's relevant. But there are things that she won't be able to say on this live stream, and so that's totally okay.
Well, yeah.
So tonight, the reason we wanted to have Frances on tonight is because we wanted to do something a little bit different with our live stream, and she is, by all accounts, the expert in this arena, using social media to build an audience. And I made the subtitle for vloggers and YouTubers because, as you'll soon see, very different audiences on every platform. And it's hard to build a singular audience for one platform on other platforms, but there are ways to do it. So we wanted to bring Frances on because she has a lot of experience with this. And I am on the About Frances slide. So this would be an excellent time if you want to tell us, Frances, a little bit about what you do and what you've learned and anything that you're allowed to say about the relationships that you have.
Gotcha. So I didn't actually start out, like none of my degrees or any of my formal learning is not actually in social media or marketing. I actually have a business degree and a hospitality degree is my master's. So I actually started out in business development for a government contractor. And then I went into like marketing. I was the millennial of the team and they were like, oh, you know, social media, right? So there's like 6 months of time where I just like spent like deep diving into social media and then realized that I really, really liked it. So I got my master's degree in hospitality with a concentration in social media, but the entire degree is not in it. And then I went into marketing and the themed entertainment space, which is why they're alluding to it. The themed entertainment space, for those of you that don't know, are the folks that are not Disney and Universal that help bring the attractions to life. So they are the scenic people, the lighting people, the sound people. I've worked for both AV companies and sound companies. So I know a lot of things that are coming that I can't talk about at all. I can't even say publicly about it at all. I'm scared a lawyer's gonna pop up out of nowhere. So I know from a creator perspective, I think I started the Instagram that I have now at with a different name, probably in like 2018, right before I moved down here. And then when I moved down here as being Florida, the Orlando area, I probably started to take it more seriously. And that's when I kind of started my YouTube channel. And then when the pandemic hit, I started TikTok and started dabbling with that. But now, while I'm kind of on here, is for the past 7 months, I've been a sole proprietor owning my own business where I help both creators and businesses, meet their social media goals. So whether that's booking more, I work with travel agents. So if it's booking more vacations, or I'm working with a short form animated series that's crowdfunding, or creators trying to, get brand deals, whatever they're looking for, I help them with social media. My bread and butter is most of the ones that support video. So it's going to be Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. I dabble in Facebook. I don't touch Twitter, don't really touch Pinterest. And there are a whole string of other social medias, but I think that is why they have deemed me the expert, because over the past 5 or 6 years of my personal brand, The Dream Finding with Frances, I've had the opportunity to work with brands like Hershey Park, Planet Hollywood. I worked with Crumble Cookies a couple weeks ago. So I've worked with these big known brands while being a smaller creator, and it is possible. And I guess I'm just a wealth of knowledge in this space. And I feel like I'm less intimidating than those people that have hundreds of thousands of followers. So, and I'm also in the Disney space, so I can answer those questions of how you kind of navigate being a creator in the Disney niche or the Disney space. So I think that's why Tim refers to me as the expert.
I do, and that is why. And that was the best possible intro that anyone has ever given.
I do feel like your, higher education did support the role in the business that you have now, certainly.
Oh, now that I know that the themed entertainment industry existed, I was like, why don't I get a degree in that? It's a degree now. And I was like, why'd I go to hospitality? Screw that.
If only we could go back.
I mean, I will say too, like Frances currently offers media kits. I don't know how many clients you can currently take on, so I'm not going to put you out there as like everyone go to her.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was going to be part of the thing later.
Well, I was going to say she built our media kit for us, and part of the reason that we don't have a whole lot of brand relationships right now with theme parks, and that might be something that we pursue down the line, but we do have a lot of brand relationships with haunts. Some of that is our own putting ourselves out there and, you know, just meeting people and handing out business cards and whatnot. But a lot of that is also what we learned from Frances and her brand relationships. And so we see her as kind of a friend and a mentor in this area. And she certainly knows a lot that we don't. So
Yay.
Expert. Knows something I don't? Expert. I revere you as a god. So we brought Frances on to talk about some of her top tips with regard to building a brand outside of one platform and trying to carry that audience over into another platform, not exclusively because we want people to be, you know, trying to focus on one platform, but I think a lot of what you have taught us and a lot of what you've had to say in like my past conversations with you and whatnot has not been platform specific. Like there's a lot of variances between each platform, certainly. Like Instagram's audience is very different from TikTok's audience, although there is some overlap.
There's a lot of overlap.
And same with YouTube and long form content versus YouTube and short form content, or certainly TikTok content. That's why we don't have a TikTok, by the way, is because we're not so good with short form content. It's a lot of work to create and we have a hard time keeping up with it. But it has been very helpful talking to Frances and helping to kind of build up our brand, which is still in its infancy, I would say, even after 3 years of working on it, because it's, for one, we're introverts, so we're not so good at networking ourselves and putting ourselves out there. We're getting better at it, but also, as I say, these audiences don't necessarily always overlap. So it's important to know, you know, some basic concepts about how you can build an audience on each platform and how you can kind of traffic a little bit of that back towards the platform that you really want to be known for. So I asked Frances for 5 or 6 key concepts, and I will be honest, I have no idea what you want to say about each one, but I have some thoughts on what you're probably going to say. So I will go ahead and throw it over to you with your first pitch or concept that you had thrown at me, which is defining.
So we kind of touched on this about how like my username is the same on everything, but it's building a recognizable brand so that your audience and then potential partnerships like can recognize that like, oh, this is what Frances does, or this is what Tim and Katie does. And I think that kind of starts with, and you don't have to do it now because you can change, but it kind of starts with like the name or like how you want to define yourself. So I knew that I didn't want to go by my full name, and I changed that really, really early on, but I knew that I wanted to be in the Disney space or Disney adjacent space. But that opens up so many like copywriting issues if you want to work with other brands or pivot later when you have like a different audience. So like you can't use the word Disney and expect to work with Starbucks or Universal. Right. And if you get too big, Disney is going to come a knocking and go, hey, you can't copyright, like use our name and copyright it and all that type of stuff. So I knew I wanted to do something Disney related. And I love the Muppets, I love Figment, I love Stitch. So I was toying around with those ideas. So Dreamfinder is a character within the Figment like attraction, or RIP, the old Figment attraction. And I knew that potentially at some point in time I wanted to travel as well and potentially include travel content. So dream finding kind of spored with that idea, and I kind of like ran with it, and it's kind of what has stuck for a while. But you just have to think about those types of things if you're like defining your brand and going about it. And that's the easiest way is like, what do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as your full name for the rest of time? And that's how people are going to refer to you if you blow up. Do you want to be referred by this specific thing? If you want to work with big brands, do you have anything copyrighted that can get you in like trouble if you want to like go work with these brands? Like if you include Muppets is copyrighted. If you include Stitch, you know, these things are copyrighted. You can allude to Disney. Like I've seen plenty of accounts that are like Happy Haunts or Grim Grinning Ghosts, and I'm like,
or Wishing Mouth.
Like that's not like copyrighted like Mickey Mouse or like Donald Duck or anything that I know is totally copyrighted. So you kind of go with that, and then you just kind of build like what you want to be known for while you're doing your brand. And that kind of ties into niche, which is the next thing. We won't go too far into that, but you don't, from the start, you don't have to be like, my color is purple and my font is Comic Sans and all that type of stuff. But it's kind of like, what is your name and kind of like, what do you want to be known as? And then as you start, you know, building assets or building stuff or things, then you're like, okay, this is that. And then you also kind of like want to do tone and voice at that time as well. So kind of like, okay, I'm me, does me curse? Because one of my clients, she's a health coach, she curses left and right. My destination weddings client, I cannot curse. It is a luxury brand. We refer to everything in very luxurious terms. I use very limited emojis, all that type of stuff. The health coach will call you stupid in a comment. She's like, you're dumb. So it's like very much like, do you want to be known as that type of person? And I feel like me as Frances, I'm kind of like that. I have friends that are like, I don't understand how you can just like record a TikTok without any makeup on. And I was like, half the time I'm not wearing makeup. So if I get an idea and I'm sitting here with my colorful fan, that's when I'm recording the TikTok, because that's when the moment comes. So it's kind of thinking about like, if and when you become bigger, what you want to be known for. Do you want to be known for being, you know, really straight to the point, really fashionable, etc.? So these are all like things you start thinking about as you're developing your brand and going down like this kind of like process or pipeline.
I don't know if you'd consider it part of your brand at this point, but I've been loving how you've started all the most recent videos with "Welcome back to whatever the heck this is."
You started that, you know that, right? You commented on one of my videos, and I was like, "This is how I'm starting from now on."
That was just, but you had said that. I didn't put words in your mouth. You had said it one time, and I was like, "This is my favorite intro ever."
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay with this. I like it.
This has become my brand.
Well, you guys start with, we do things like this, so it's like kind of the things that like you're known for.
Yeah.
The Michaela Nagaro, the TikToker, has a really thick Boston accent, and you know that like she's talking like "Pak the Ka" and "Yod" when she's doing makeup reviews. It's like things you associate with certain people, and that's your brand.
Yeah, when we started, and if you don't know this, Frances, I would be shocked, but also this is going to fill up your whole evening. We started our channel with a pandemic era video, a Muppet parody, a music video parody of the Cabin Fever song from Muppet Treasure Island. And it was literally just like, we didn't use any of the actual like dialogue or anything from the movie. We rewrote every single line for the pandemic, because we were on our way to like a theme park one day, like COVID era theme park. So like we have plenty of time standing in very paced out lines to talk about it. And we were like, this is a really great idea. Someone's going to beat us to it if we don't do it today. We're going to do it today. We're going to recruit all our cousins and our friends, and we're just going to make a COVID fever type video. And that actually took off, which is not surprising because it's a popular, IP. But after doing that, there was a split second where we were like, well, we don't really have anything to follow this up with. We like doing theme park stuff, and a lot of parks are starting to open up very slowly. Maybe we take the camera along with us and see what happens, because that's what we like to watch when we were sitting at home during COVID times. And as we got that rolling, there were people who subscribed based on the Muppet
should not have
music video, thinking that it was going to be more of that immediately dropped off because we were doing content that was completely unrelated. But then there were people that stuck, and then there were people who started subscribing because of the theme park content. And now we do a lot of haunts, and there are people who only watch the haunt stuff, and there are people who only watch the theme park stuff, and there are people who only watch the travel stuff. There are people on this live stream right now who have never seen a haunt video of ours, and who will never watch a haunt video.
I doubt Frances has watched them.
I know.
I fast forward when you're in the houses. I'm like, I'm going to give you watch time, but you're not getting the haunt. I'm not getting scared. So
that won't save you from the footage of the cockroaches crawling in people's hands. But point taken, right? Like, we decided that our brand, when we started having that same conversation, like, what are we going to name ourselves that's not going to put us in a box? Because we like doing a lot of different things, and we can't really do something. First of all, there are a million theme park content creators, and much more so now, I think, after the pandemic than there were even before the pandemic. So it's not exactly an isolated niche. But we were also thinking, like you were saying, like, if we ever got to a point where we would want to have brand connections, where we're being invited places, we don't exclusively want those places to be theme parks. And we also don't exclusively want to make theme park content. We want to kind of give ourselves some room to grow in whatever direction seems appropriate. And so we just went with our names. It was just Tim and Katie. But you push it together, and it seems like a little cutesy. It was actually our wedding hashtag when we got married, so that's what we stuck with.
And you just revamped the wedding website too.
I literally did, because I already had the URLs saved from the wedding. I built the whole thing on Squarespace, and then I just turned that around and relaunched a different website at the same URL. So,
but I think you make a good point, Francis, about like people who go by their names, and their real names at that. Like the one I thought of immediately was like Kevin Heimbach. Like I love him. He's so nice.
We actually met him for the first time at East Coast. Yeah, he's very nice guy.
Just like.
We did our college programs together. He finds me every IAPA, and we have a long conversation of him just talking at me and me nodding.
I don't know if he would remember talking to us, but we did have a good conversation with him, because he works with Markoff's Haunted Forest a lot, and he came with them to East Coast Haunters. But and we were talking to the Markoff's folk, and he kind of wandered up and just waited for us to be done. And then I was like,
he did introduce himself too. But that's like, we don't call him, Kevin, or he's Kevin Heimbach, because he's his name, and I know there's others that use their actual name. But then there's people who have like I think of like Tampa J, that's his name, and it's where he's from. And I'm like, I think there's some really good examples of like people who have done a good job with their brand.
I think mine is more
hearing like your story about how you came up with your name. I think that was fantastic.
I think mine's more like a privacy thing, is if I ever got big, I don't want people to like look up my address, because addresses are public, or like taxes are public. There are like a lot of things that are public. And if you know like my full name, you're going to know those types of things. So I think that's why I was just kind of like, if I ever got to that point, I really don't want some weirdo knowing my full name and being able to do something with it.
Yep. Oh yeah, Tim's referencing Crystal from the Crystal Palace, who took her name and inserted it into
because her name is actually with a K, so it doesn't.
That was kind of genius in and of itself.
It has been. It is kind of fun to like learn about a new channel and see what they decided to do. Sometimes they're more creative and sometimes they're less, but I think it is fun to see how people decided to start a brand.
It's also like kind of like you said, like you don't have all the answers when you start out. You're still learning, and you don't always have the foresight to see like this might be a problem 10 years from now. Like we try our best to think of those things, but we don't know if our brand is going to be Tim and Katie 10 years from now. We hope it will be, because we like it. But it depends.
I'll take a pizza, Kaylee. I just don't want a weird stalker at my house.
Oh yeah.
I was not going to throw Kaylee under the bus, but since she volunteered this information, this is a thing that happened. Like this happens to people who, unfortunately, like in her case, some of her personal information was out there before she had formalized the brand, and the one person that found the information happened to be a bad actor. So I totally get where you're coming from. Like, condense it, make it a little more private. We found out during our first giveaway too that like there are certain people who probably shouldn't have our address, so we need to set up a PO box, regardless of how innocent everyone seems online. You never know until you know.
And then it's, if I ever want to have kids, and like Mike and I have talked about this a lot, about like, do I want my kids on social media? And I'm very like torn about it. Like I look at like the Bucket List family and I'm like, oh my God, those kids are so cultured. They've had all these opportunities, but like also that kid can't consent to like being on social media and having those types of things. So I think it's also a privacy of like, I don't want them to like hear me call my kid by their first name, know my last name, and then can call my kid by their full name. And then I don't have a kid anymore because it's been taken. So it's like, I've thought it all through. Anxious little me has like thought through all the scenarios. I'm like, how can we keep private as long as possible?
And you have people like the trackers, Tim Tracker and Jen Tracker, who have made their kid a part of the channel because the type of content they do, it makes sense for it to be kind of a more family channel. And that's fine if that's the direction they want to go. You also have YouTubers, not in the theme park arena, but off the top of my head, Caleb Hiles had a kid recently, and he made the decision and announced it that the kid was never going to be on the channel. You're never going to hear about the kid. And I think that's fine too. Like,
and then there's others who kind of, I know there's like, I don't know if they're on YouTube or not, but they're definitely on like Instagram and TikTok, where it's like, yeah, we're a family and we have 4 kids and they are apple, orange, tomato, and whatever. And that is like, and they stick to those names. Like they all have made up names, and you will never hear them refer to their child by their real name ever. And I think that works too. Wow, that really, I went off on a tangent on that, but sorry. I had a question for you, Francis, which I think you touched on, because I think defining the brand is part of it, but I feel like you alluded to the brand could still evolve. It didn't have to stay what it was.
I think it kind of goes with like the next conversation about like niche and stuff.
Okay. Like, I didn't want to get ahead, but I
like the first YouTube video I made is probably cringeworthy. I'm never going to look at it again. Don't look at it. I don't know what it is. Yours is the Muppet one. But like, as we grow as people, our skills get better, our interests change, like your brand can evolve. It gets a lot harder when you have a more established brand. It's like Dunkin' dropping the donuts, or Disney Spring, like Downtown Disney becoming Disney Springs. When it's so established and in vernacular, it gets really, really hard. But it's not possible. It's just, you could want it to be one thing one day, and then you hit 10,000 followers or 15,000 followers, and things are changing, and you can change it. It just becomes harder because people will associate with you. Oh, aren't you dream finding with? Oh, no, you changed your name. What is it now? It's just that recognition stays with it. And I think like the example of like Dunkin' Donuts or anything is like the reason, like, I don't think I call it just Dunkin'. Like, it's Dunkin' Donuts to me. It has been my entire life.
It's like when Snoop Dogg wanted to be Snoop Lion, and everyone's like, no, you're Snoop Dogg, sorry.
And I will also put an asterisk on your statement that, your first video was cringeworthy. Our Muppet video is still out there, and that was well and truly our first video.
I love that video, but like our first vlog.
Our first vlog is gone. Like, we long since pulled
Tim
that
used to do like little emojis, and I was definitely very much a what's the word I'm looking for?
Catty?
A stickler for the rules when we were visiting theme parks, and there were a lot of regulations in place for COVID, and there's videos of me being like, I can't believe this happened. We're supposed to be following these rules. And not that I'm mad I did that, but it does. If people start from the beginning, they're like, wow, what a very serious person she is. And now they look at it and it's like, I'm running off to play with the Disney ducks, I'm like, now
our brand as a whole is very, like, when we network with haunts, they always ask us, like, are you haunt reviewers? And we're like, well, in a way, but we're more so experienced vloggers. You'll rarely see us bad mouthing something unless it has majorly ruined our day. We tend to be very positive people because that was the kind of content that we found uplifting when we were stuck in our, quarantine, and we wanted to be that for somebody else. So the early videos, we were still trying to find that vibe, and like, how can we balance this out where we're not like, lying, but also we're not like, oh, this food is awful, we're never going to eat here again, So like you said, the brands evolve.
Yeah.
And our previous, like our early stuff, most of it's still there, but there's a lot. There's one vlog in particular that we pulled down just because it was so cringe. There was like 20 minutes of wrap up at the end to like 5 minutes of actual content.
That was bad.
That was a bad video. I don't want that. I don't want that associated with the brand.
There was a question from Storming Thrills that I didn't want to bury.
So I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer, because I feel like you evolve, and if your brand is you or you're part of the entity, you evolve as well. I would say like, don't change it every single day. Like, but I would really think about the change, and I would only make it like once or twice. So I think I went by my full name for like the first year that I had that account, and then I went quickly. I was like, no, like, I don't want this out there. I only probably had a couple hundred followers. I was like, I don't want this out there. We're like pivoting, but I wouldn't pivot every day. Like, I wouldn't have like wild mood swings, but I'd be like, oh, I've changed. My interests have changed. I've really thought this through. I want to start working with X, Y, and Z brands. So this is going to be the rebranding, and this is why. I just wouldn't do it like on a whim, but there's no like concrete number.
Good advice.
I would say the one or two well thought out with good reasoning and rationale behind them is probably as good an answer as you can get.
Yeah. I also want to address this one from Jamie and Ari at Keeping Up in Disney. You guys have great content, and you should, if you love those memories and you want to be associated with, like, I don't think they're terrible.
Yeah.
But those are your memories to hold on to. It's your brand, it's your channel. You can do what you wish with it. For us, the looking back on some of the stuff, we're like,
a majority of our videos are definitely still there, and they'll remain there.
Yeah. I don't want to like not show progress either. Like if you go back to our early days, I want there to be some stuff there from our early days. The reason I pulled down that one video is because it was genuinely, truly bad. And also because we were still learning, and there were things that we would do differently if we had to do that whole day again today that we wouldn't have known to do then. So it was, it's not reflective of the kind of content that we create now. Kaylee did start out as a reaction channel. I remember that. So.
Yep.
I think we should pivot to niche because I feel like we're touching like on a lot of
Okay. You're right. Let's do it. Defining a niche.
Okay,
so your second topic.
If you watch literally any social media guru, they're gonna say like a broken record, define your niche. And I feel like I don't have anything substantial to add to that conversation except for like your niche doesn't have to be like super nuanced. Like I feel like my niche is definitely Disney pins, but it's like one facet of it. But you want to make sure that they're all like related so that your audience can naturally move with you. So if your interests are like anime, traveling to Greece, and horses, like your audience is going to be all over the place, but it's also like the algorithm's not going to pin on any platform. It's not going to be able to pinpoint you. So essentially what the algorithm is doing is it's reading the people that are watching your videos, your video content, how you're tagging it, how you're doing it on all of these platforms. The algorithms work very similarly and very differently at the same time. So they can like put you in a box, for lack of a better word. So they can show your content to the right people. But if you are so all over the place, it's not getting to the right people and you're not building your audience. So the best way I can do it is however you're defining your niche, which can change as your interests change, as like you change as a person. Just make sure like the content you're doing is like related. I'm not saying don't make content that like doesn't interest you and you don't want to like see and whatnot, but again, if it's like horses and anime and like traveling to the like there's no common factor except for you, and people might watch for you. They might like you as a person, but the people who watch the Greece videos might like travel vlogs versus the anime people might like the anime and all that type of stuff. So you just need to make sure that they're all like cohesive and like intertwined. So I definitely started out as like Disney focused. And now I've kind of pivoted to my life in Florida as a creator, which involves Disney and whatnot, but it also involves other stuff. And I still find that like my Disney and my pin videos still do the best because that is what I've built my audience on. And I would love to pivot to more travel, but like my honeymoon stuff like tanked on all platforms. Like I tried to vlog and travel and whatnot, but like it did not like work well with my audience. So I'm like, okay, well the box is Disney pins and that is the box that I'm staying in. And I'm trying to pivot and like working on it and whatnot. And it's a slower process, but essentially you kind of need to find out what your box is in order to like reach people. And you might not like your box. Like I've heard it from several people who've had videos like blow up, like the video that I've had blow up, the weird box that I was put in the past couple days. Just be mindful that sometimes the box that you're placed in might not be the one that excites you the most. So you might get like weird, I don't know, the algorithm might work weird against you and all this type of stuff. It like niching is just a very long topic. I can go down several things, but I think I kind of said what I wanted to do, where it's like, still make content that you want to see and that like you're happy with, but recognize that the way that these algorithms work is they're trying to put you in a box and put that box in front of the correct people. So you need to be able to not like have all these spread out interests because your box is not going to hit the right people.
I'm glad that you reminded us to transition. Oh,
it got really dark really fast. So I was like,
let's last. I'm super glad that you reminded us to transition because all of these comments.
Yeah, everyone was transitioning into niche before us.
Yeah. So to go kind of along with what you said, this is a lengthy comment from Keeping Up in Disney. Started as Disney vlogs, recording their trips, enjoy making general travel stuff and other videos now that don't really fit your name. I was going to tell you all, because we watch the Keeping Up in Disney vlogs, and we've noticed that, you know, as they've grown, they've gone to places like Dollywood and to, you know, Tennessee and to Kings Island, and I don't think Cedar Point yet, but definitely places that are adjacent to Disney and other theme parks or amusement parks, but not exclusively.
I mean,
Disney.
Universal.
Yeah, Universal too.
Yeah.
What you guys could do, and I think this is, it's obviously up to you. It's your brand, and you can do with it what you will. But I think it would totally work if you just went keeping up in ... And at the beginning of every video, you just said, "This is where we are."
Because I thought it was adorable when they were like,
they changed it.
Keeping
Yeah,
up
when they
in
went
Universal ? And
Yeah.
it was really cute.
When they went to different places, they would always change the intro up and say, "Welcome back to Keeping Up in Nashville," or wherever they were at the day. So
Yeah.
I think that was really cute. I think that would work. But that's kind of what we did too, is because we started out doing primarily theme parks, and it's part of our media kit that Francis helped us build. Tells us our very brief synopsis of our story.
That's our story.
Which was, we started out in theme parks. As we grew, we figured out like, these are things that we like doing. These are communities that we like being a part of. And that led us more and more towards spooky stuff. And come to find out, there's an awful lot of spooky stuff that goes on between the months of January and May. And then there's a very brief period, which we're in now, where there's not a whole lot of that. But come September, we are going to be busy as all heck. So you can do pretty much anything you want, as long as Francis kind of laid out, like you are within some kind of niche that ties things together, as opposed to being one isolated thing. Because eventually, even if you don't define your box, YouTube is going to define a box for you.
Yeah.
Or Instagram or TikTok or whatever algorithm you're feeding.
Yeah, and YouTube definitely likes our haunt videos, but it randomly also, it seems to like our hotel and resort
tours usually get a lot of traffic.
And then
the how-to videos, we have one how-to video from way back when, where we were literally just trying to pass on information about the Superstar Shuttle connection between the Orlando airport and Universal. It's a service they offer through Mears. I didn't anticipate that it wasn't even really a vlog. It was just like, this is our travel experience. It's 6 minutes long. That blew up like crazy and is still getting views to this day. We're still getting questions on that video from people who are finding that first and foremost when they're going.
I think you hit the SEO. I think that's an SEO thing, which is another different topic.
Yeah, that is definitely something too. But yeah, I mean, we have our niche, if we have one, is travel and experiences. And to narrow it down further, we like spooky stuff. But beyond that, we really, I mean, the niche is us. It's what we like to do, where we like to go. We take
but
the
I
camera
do
with
think
us.
If we started doing unboxing videos,
that would not
YouTube would get super confused.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what is...
You just started doing like merch hauls, like, look.
This is my favorite comment of the day so far.
Zoe, that made us crack up.
Zoe at Wishing Mouths has been posting a lot of cruise content, and that content has been doing very, very well, similar to some of the breakout videos that we put together that just blew up for no reason. So yeah, I mean, you find yourself in a box, whether you intend to or not, and you can either lead into it or you can try to build out from it. But I think if you want to get a little bit more traction, you find a way to bridge what you're doing well with what you want to be doing well.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what the next slide section is.
I'm still going through comments.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chit chat. You guys, thank you for your engagement and questions and everything.
Yeah, I love that this is helpful.
Yeah,
for people,
I hope
because we were hoping it would be.
I also offer paid services. You can get a consultation with me one-on-one, just to plug that.
Yeah.
Yes, this is
the plug. Natty plug.
This is the whole concept of first one's always free. This is the
this is the appetizer.
Next one's gonna cost you. Yeah, that's the other thing too, and this is a subtopic of a subtopic, but we have noticed that a lot of people who move to Orlando have a harder time, because that is, I mean, Francis, you know better than we do because you do live in that area, that it is a more competitive landscape down there. But if you have a lot of content, like, you can go out and get something different every single day, but 9 times out of 10 someone has already done that exact video before. And
that's very true.
Probably a bigger YouTuber has done it before that will have a lot more traction than you will. So it's hard to break out and do things at that location, in that niche. Yeah. But you can find ways to do things creatively too. I mean, I'll
All
move us
right.
forward. I know I'm
Ooh,
going to
that's
spend
a
way too much time talking about
This
each
is
thing.
a good one too.
Consistency. This is the
This
word
is
that
another
everyone
one that
dreads.
like everyone talks about. So I don't mean consistency in like you have to post every single day at 9 a.m. or whatever it is. I mean consistency in the fact that whatever is attainable for you that will not burn you out. So if you can only produce one really good video every 2 weeks, but you're staying on that for 6 months, that's what I want to hold you to. So I have this conversation with like clients all the time where they're like, I don't know how to be consistent. I don't know how to do that. So it's setting up what works with whatever algorithm you're like, whatever algorithm for whatever platform you're prioritizing, and how can you be consistent on that. So if it's YouTube is a little bit more lax in how frequent you need to pop up in order to stay like relevant in people's minds. So if it's one really good video every week, cool. If it's one really video every 2 weeks, awesome. That's great. On Instagram and TikTok, you have to be a little bit more present, but you run the risk of burning out, which is not what you want to do, or like creating really shitty content. So TikTok, you kind of have to show up every day in order to like make a difference, which is why TikTok is so hard. But it's also really easy because I make really stupid TikToks and they hit. So like sometimes if you just like low effort and want to make stupid ones, you can do that. Instagram is a mix depending on what content you're prioritizing. Like reels would be a couple times a week. A static post might be once a week. Stories are a really great way to like build your current audience, like people that already follow you. And that would be like a daily thing or every other day type thing. So it's not consistency in the fact that it's like, oh my God, you have to do this like every Tuesday at this time. Tuesday might not work for you, but if you are able to get a video out every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and that's not going to burn you out, that's what you need to do. And that's how you're going to build an audience. Is being consistent, because unfortunately social media has a memory of a goldfish, which is a good or a bad thing. Because if you screenshot something, that goldfish can be terrible, but also like if you're not present in front of people, people are going to forget you. So it's how can you come back and be in front of them, but you don't want to give them crap unless you're me who just shoots really shitty TikToks at the spur of the moment. But it's just like being front of mind. So it's like, oh, you know, Tim and Katie post a vlog every Thursday and whatnot. Like it's kind of like TV shows now, like where you know that like your favorite TV show is at 8 p.m. every night. Like you want to be that TV show, but you want to keep up with it. Now I understand sometimes you get sick, you do hit burnout and whatnot. So like things happen, but trying to maintain that schedule in a way that will not burn you out, but will be able to like aid you in your growth is what I mean by consistency.
And that's, you know, you hit the nail right on the head. A lot of people are asking about, you know, what if you have an irregular work schedule, you can only get content certain days, other people just having a hard time keeping up with a post schedule. We had that struggle, and for a year, our whole first year, I would say, we had the occasional video that would go wild, and we'd be like, yeah, but we did not have a post schedule. We had no consistency whatsoever. We just posted when we could. And we built an audience very, 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 very slowly, usually because people who had already found us would recommend our video to someone else. And that was helpful, and we still have some of those people with us today, which is great. But since our second year, we've tried to keep up with some kind of consistent schedule. Now, this has not been a great year for consistency on our channel. We
left 2023 and we're like, we're going to nail the off season, because we call the off season like January through April
when stuff is closed.
Because in our area, there's not always things to do. So we're like, we're gonna rock the off season this year. We did not rock the off season this year. It took until like end of February, early March.
Well, first of all, we have a content calendar internally that we use to kind of like plan out, like we're going to go this weekend and get this content so that we can post this day and this day. Well, if we need to shoot 2 vlogs back to back to do that, then that's what we have. So we have, you know, no gaps in our schedule. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes we go to the parks or to a resort. On 2 occasions so far this year, we have arrived at a place, realized that what we had intended to shoot was never going to work because of crowds, because of weather, this, that, or the other thing. And we're like, well, we can think on our feet and stress ourselves out, or we can have a gap. And sometimes you have to take the gap. But there are other things, just like I had my wisdom teeth pulled in the first week of January in 2024. I anticipated being down for 3 days. I was down for 3 weeks instead. Never got a dry socket, so I had that going for me, but also didn't have the motivation or the energy to edit anything.
Surgery.
Yeah. So it's hard.
All
I'm
that
not going
being
to say
said,
it's not.
we've definitely benefited when we are consistent.
Yes.
And but we've always prioritized our well-being over the consistency, which may bite us in the butt sometimes, but we don't regret that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, understand that, to Francis's point, there is a trade-off happening there. We know that we're going to grow slower because we didn't post that week. And we have to be okay with that, or else we push ourselves into a box where we have, like, we burn ourselves out and we push really hard to get things out every single week. It's easier if you do have, what's the word I'm looking for? A regimen, where like like for me personally, my edit days are Monday through Wednesday evenings. Like after 6 p.m., I am on my computer nonstop cranking out the edits. It doesn't help that our edits require a little bit more production than like the standard like shoot it and post it.
I sit on my bum and do nothing.
Well, you're kind of, I mean, you help in other ways. You help man our social media presences, which I have no time to do. But
I think that's kind of you. It's not true.
You shoot a lot of reels. We could go on about
this.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to keep up with multiple, especially if you have multiple different presences. But and Francis, I'm going to put this to you too, because Tim had asked about like you having a regular work schedule and you only can get content at certain times. I know you know about scheduling and, what's the word I'm looking for? Lining up what you want to post before you actually reach the day you need to post it. So can you tell us a little bit about that and like strategies that you can have to keep the content up when you have a lull?
Yeah, so TikTok is the only one to my knowledge that doesn't let you schedule anything. You can draft as much as you want, but like it won't upload at a certain time. But LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, either natively or through third-party apps have scheduling stuff. So that's what I do for most of my clients. Like I have 6 or 7 social media clients. I'm not posting at 8:01 for one and 8:02 for the next one and whatnot. Like I'm sitting down and I'm bulking out like a month or week's worth of content for them in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Then I'm moving on to the next one. My preferred scheduling service, it is a paid one. It is called later.com and it attaches to most of the things that I said. And when you have that time where you're like in the groove, for lack of a better word, you can just sit there and crank out the stuff. If you're waiting for brand approvals, if it's like more timely stuff, that one you might want to push out live, but like stuff like that isn't timely, I guess, like, oh, I have this photo of a Mickey waffle or this photo of a like roller coaster, are you putting in filler? You can do those filler posts. So you're just at least popping up for people's notice, and then you can, live post the other ones. My only caveat with that, and I have to remind this to everyone, is those scheduling services don't know what's happening in the world. So you just need to be mindful of anything and everything that's happening, especially in today's day and age. Mm-hmm. A lot of people got dinged during the Black Lives Matter movement when everyone went silent for posts still going up. So I always, anytime I go on vacation or like I'm on a cruise or I know that like I'll have limited access to my phone, I always like state in a meeting or in a text message or an email to a client going, if World War III starts while I'm on my cruise, delete every post I have scheduled and deal with it when I get back. It is better to not be the asshole and be silent and not sell anything for a week than like be known for like talking about something during this terrible time. So while scheduling has its abilities, and I always recommend if you can get a week out or a couple weeks out, that just helps in the interim, but I wouldn't schedule years of content out in advance. Mm-hmm. And I also would be cognizant of what's happening in the world so you don't seem like an asshole speaking out about Disney when the world potentially is on fire.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. There was a memorable post, and I feel like I don't want to get into it too much, but I think it was Rhode Island Comic-Con or one of the conventions run by that same company that had what was clearly a pre-scheduled post out for a guest announcement. And the guest that was announced was steeped in controversy at
I was
the
going to say they like died or something like a week
no,
before.
so much worse. So much worse. There were criminal charges that have since turned out to be largely true against that guest, to the point where as soon as that post dropped, there was an immediate retraction and then a post from that convention center saying, I am so sorry. That was scheduled 2 weeks ago before any of this happened. We didn't know. We couldn't have known. I promise we don't support what he's done, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a good tip that I don't think a lot of people would be thinking about. I would also add on to your tip with regard to later in scheduling posts that you still have to do the work. It's not like you're not going to be creating the post or writing the bio or adding the hashtags. Like, you still have to do that work, but you can do it all in one evening if you need, versus posting,
or you can even do it in chunks. Like one day you can just upload all the photos and the next day is your caption writing day. And like, I mean, sometimes I do that with clients where like one day I'm just creating the content and the next day I'll write captions for a couple hours. It just depends on how your brain works.
Yeah. So keep it consistent. Don't burn yourself out. Find a schedule that works for you. I think those are all things that we've said in passing, but it sounds better coming out of you.
Sounds more official.
As an expert. We have no expertise on anything at all.
We're learning.
So,
I
quality
love this
over
one.
Quantity.
I love
this. Actually it plays right into some of the other stuff we were just talking about.
So this is one that I don't follow because, like, again, I will record TikToks and upload it and not like think about it and whatnot. And I feel like my YouTube videos are very like lower end in production quality, which I'm okay with. Like, it's quick edits and whatnot. But I'm not saying like sit here and record 12 YouTube videos back to back to back just to get them out. Like, there's something to say for like practicing and like learning your editing software, and maybe those 12 vlogs or videos or whatnot are not going to do well, but like, damn, I'm going to learn my editing software and I'm going to learn all of these tricks and whatnot. There's fine with that, but like, don't feel bad if they don't like do well or like something like you don't get any views or anything. So again, with the consistency thing, if you can produce one really good video, but you can only do it every 2 weeks, that's fine. You're doing your one quality video over quantity. You're still going to build an audience. People are going to be like, wow, the audio on that video was so good, or the graphics were so good, or, the lighting was great, or like they shot this B-roll amazing. And you'll connect with someone that way. But like, there's something to be said about just like producing really crappy quality over that. And there's a specific creator in our community, and I think Tim knows who I'm talking about because we talk about said creator a lot, that does the quantity aspect over quality, and you can tell. So like, just keep that stuff in mind. It all goes back to like the beginning of like branding and image and whatnot. Like, do you want to be known for like these high production videos, these videos that they're super thought out, super deep and all that type of stuff? Or you just want to be known that like, I just post anything and everything and just like kind of see what happens and whatnot. So it's just, how do you want to be known and like what you're able to do? But I would definitely say like, if you can only do one video a week, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can only do 2 Instagram posts a week, but they're really, really shot well, that's great, versus like 5 really, really pixelated selfies or something. Like that's the best way to say it, is just like, it's all leading into like the brand image and you not burning out and building this audience and what you want to be known for, which hopefully is quality over quantity. But hey, if you just want to keep pumping them out, like that's your fruition.
Yep. I mean, as you said, like we're not always following all of these guidelines to the T, but I do feel like
that is one
quality is the one that we have tried very hard, because there's, I mean, like we said, we've made the decision where if we don't think the quality of the content is going to be up to our standard, we've scrapped the video, or we've cut a lot out of it. Like, oh, this came out horrible. We thought the lighting was better.
I was going to say that too. Like,
oh my gosh, the microphone was blocked. We don't even have any audio for this section. So we have put out some videos that we were like, we need the content. We're going to do it. But we have, I think that is one of the, I keep saying guidelines, tips that we've been more consistent with. And I think I'm pretty proud of us for that. Two
examples of how this went astray for us. So the one, this is like sadly one of the most like prominent memories from our trip to Hawaii was the video that Katie I think is first and foremost thinking of when we went to Alani, the Disney resort in Hawaii. It was an amazing resort. Everything was so expensive, but that's just, you know, island life in addition to Disney life. The one vlog that is like I hate more than any other vlog we've done has, of course, taken off to some small extent. It's over 1,000 views, which was not what I wanted for the video. I was kind of hoping that it would just be there, help our algorithm, and nobody would see it. But we put out a vlog where we found out after shooting for an entire day that we had some adhesive gunk in our microphone. And we didn't check our footage as we were going through the day. We only checked it at the very end of a day. And I will say we killed like half of the content that we shot that day. We're like, it's irredeemable. I tried to clean up what was left, but I put a disclaimer at the beginning like, hey, we didn't know that there was some sound issues until after we checked the footage. Most of this was salvageable, but it's going to be a little rough. And for whatever reason, like people, it wasn't inaudible. It was just garbled, and people were still able to hear and, you know, get something out of the content. And I'm glad for that. But I hate that vlog. I hate
that.
It.
Was a terrible...
We had to put it out because we were like, we had content paced out for like all these months and we weren't going to be doing anything for that whole window because we had the content. And then we suddenly didn't have good content for one of our
That was
drop
the
days.
Worst time when we were like in the hotel room and you were just like devastated.
I was like,
we
this,
have a day's
this whole
like 2
day
vlogs.
is ruined.
It's done.
Yeah. And that, I say this because that's going to happen, you know, like if you're a serious content creator and you're out there like pounding the pavement, trying to, what's the word or the phrase, running and gunning, like you're out there collecting content all the time, like sooner or later, you're going to have a vlog that just doesn't work. And it's your call at that point, whether or not you want to put it out there or not. We decided to put it out there because we caught it early enough that the rest of the day we were able to salvage, and we had what we thought was a decent cohesive narrative, and we were like, you know what, it's going to be what it's going to be. We need it for the algorithm. Let's just see if anyone finds it or if it can quietly fade into oblivion. Of course, I'm bringing it to the surface by mentioning it, but
everyone's going to be like, what is this?
Makahiki restaurant, go look it up. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say was when we went to, and I will name drop them because they're going to do fine without our endorsement, the Hotel Hershey. Was not the experience we anticipated staying there. And it was not a bad experience. It was just in no way, shape, or form vloggable in the way that we thought it was going to be. So we had originally planned to shoot a whole resort tour there. We came in, we were put off by a couple different things we weren't anticipating, elements of the stay that are just, I think the more you pay, the less you get sometimes. And we weren't having fun, and we decided ultimately like, this is stupid. The content's going to be bad. Let's just not shoot it. And we had a hole because we didn't shoot it. But I think the content would have been worse if we put it out than if we just decided to be like, you know what, let's just, you know, enjoy what we can enjoy about this day and not try to like showcase it. And I stand by that decision.
Yeah.
You know, that really does come down to quality over quantity. You have to be okay with sacrificing your place in the algorithm for a week or two if that's what it's going to take to get quality content out. But if you can focus on quality over quantity, and like, as Francis said, if you can get a video out like once every 2 weeks, but it's a good video, do that. And I think that's the content I more prefer watching over people who just post something like every single day or every other day.
I will say there's a place for crappy quick TikToks and Reels. There's a place for that.
If there's
an audience for it. But I guess I don't know. I have some thoughts on like, I don't think this is necessarily for this audience or whatnot. I kind of want people's thoughts on like, when I think it's called stitching, when you're like watching someone else's content and it's your reaction and that's your like TikTok or whatever. I don't know. That feels so.
Several of mine of those have gone very viral.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about them. I'm like, wait, so am I supposed to be laughing at the original thing or your face? Or sometimes it's like 3 people reacting to like the one thing on the little square, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
I don't do stitching as much as like duetting, where it's like the one that's gone viral that we keep talking about, where it's like the 5 seconds and then it's a take on something. Like I do a lot better like feeding off of that content or like fitting it into my niche. Like, okay, we'll talk about the one that's going viral. So it's like X amount of people spent an exorbitant amount of money on their Super Bowl tickets. And I always get made fun of because I have a pin wall that's over here that probably has $30,000 to $40,000 of pins. Another reason why I don't want people to know where I live. I don't want this thefted and stolen from me and taken off the wall. So it was just like a joke, like no one can make fun of me for like this collection if people are willing to spend $13,000, $10,000, $12,000 on a Super Bowl ticket, whereas I have a collection and that took off. So like I find those ones interesting because I always like to see like where the next person goes. So there's a really popular one on TikTok right now that was like, explain why marriage is hard. And it's gone in like so many different directions, but I'm so excited to see what that next person posts. Like sometimes it's like a dude's socks are just all over the house and they're like, this is why marriage is hard. And another one is like, there's trash or something. So I like those. The stitches I think are better when you're like, someone's asking you a question or you're doing trivia or it's like put a finger down, like in those type of content. I like those, but the duets I feel like I do really, really well because I'll watch them and I'll come up with something really, really fast and I'll record it in that spur of a moment. And I like that type of content. Storming Thrills asked a question about Instagram.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too.
Back to that. So it depends on what you're posting on Instagram. So if you were doing a static image, the clearer, the better, the less pixelated of the roller coaster. But if you want it to be in motion, then it should be like a video or reel or some type of that. So like it depends. The Reels algorithm is technically a different algorithm than the static image algorithm.
oh, really?
So it just depends on what you're feeding into and like what you think is going to do better. So the Reels algorithm, you think of it more as like a TikTok, like you have the trending audio and like all this type of stuff. No one's going to really read the caption versus the static image. They'll look at the image, the really nice image, clean image of whatever part of the roller coaster, or you can do hodgepodge, like a carousel of it. They're more likely to read the caption, just the way that like the layouts are and like the format of the Instagram app is. So I hope that helps. Katie, did you not know that they're two different algorithms?
Yeah, I told you I'm not a social media. He's like, you handle our social media. I'm like, I don't.
See,
I take videos, I send them to you, and then you put them on
maybe more
Instagram.
accurate to say she creates content for
I-
social
I-
media. I do the
I
posting.
farm content, or is that the word? Collect content
yeah.
for social media. I don't actually
Content
post
curation.
it. We decided a long time ago that only one, like he has his personal Instagram account and the Tim and Katie Instagram on his phone, and that's where we're posting stuff from. So.
Yeah. It's one of those wonderful meta fusions where like a personal account was linked to a business account and there was no way to delink them, so she can't log in on her phone without logging
that's
me
what
out.
After a day of
I'm still on 3 different company accounts because they refuse to kick me off of it. And I'm like, I can't log back in. I've logged myself out. Someone please, for the love of God, take my personal Facebook off of this account.
I did want to mention too one comment that it lives rent-free in my brain that I stumbled across on Reddit, people talking about like Instagram growth, because the Instagram algorithm in particular is not favorable towards new creators. That's just a known fact. But one thing that someone had posted in response to like, how do you build an audience and whatnot, was if I go to a page and all I see are reels, I'm gone. That's one person's opinion. It's not necessarily indicative of the type of audience that you want on your page. If you want to be posting reels, I think that's fine. We try to diversify our content because I think there is a perception, whether it be algorithmic or just, like the human perception of stumbling across a page, that if you're chasing virality, you're not actually creating quality content, which is something we've kind of touched on several times here. But the reels, I feel like, are Instagram's easiest way to get something viral over static posts. I could be wrong. Francis, feel free to correct me. But I think that there is at least a public perception that too many reels equals you're not trying that hard, or I don't know. So I try to post static stuff, carousels, videos, stories. Like Instagram is probably our most active app after YouTube. and we try to have enough content there that there's something for everyone. I don't know whether that's a help or a hindrance to our actual growth, but I feel like the audience that we have has at least stuck with us for it.
To quote you, Tim, it's a subtopic of a subtopic, but essentially the whole purpose of social media is like the marketers are buying your attention. So it's how long they can keep you on the app. So viral videos or reels are what are attention grabbing now. Everyone has learned it during the pandemic. We're all doom scrolling. We're looking for entertainment. We're looking to like zone out of the world and to like be entertained and to not focus on whatever's happening, whether it's your personal life or larger. So it's whatever can keep you on the platform the longest. And TikTok found that like everyone was zooming towards it. So YouTube tried to adopt it and Instagram tried to adopt it and then Facebook adopted it and LinkedIn is somehow doing videos now and whatnot. So it's just like everyone was trying to figure out how to do that because it kept marketing dollars in the space, which meant they got their bigger bonuses and all that type of stuff. So it's not really to the end of the day, it's what's keeping your attention and that's what's putting the dollars behind whether it's your brand collaboration or the big corporation making money at the end of the day. To go on the algorithms, Instagram, from what I know, technically has several different algorithms and each piece of content plays into that. So your stories feed into, you're nurturing your current audience. So people that already follow you. So that might be like updates or polls or whatnot. You're nurturing the current folks that you want to keep in your audience and keep in your circle. Reels are more for like reach. You're trying to grow. You're trying to reach new eyeballs, reach new people. Your static feed posts are a little bit of both. You're going to nurture the people that you already have, but if you have like a really engaging like carousel post is probably the best one versus a static image. Those might take off and might also help with reach. So it's just kind of like, I guess, a Venn diagram with like some overlapping where like reels are going to be really where you're going to get eyeballs and whatnot. So they should be catchy. They should be attention grabbing. Hopefully they're in your niche and on brand. If not, you're going to have a weird following happen to you like me. Your stories are going to be like the people that are following you. So maybe they're interested in your day-to-day life, or maybe they're interested in you're going to a theme park, you're posting about that. And then your actual like feed posts, so your photos, your carousels, stuff like that. That's gonna be a mix of both, where sometimes it can hit the right people. Somehow you have the magic 8-ball and you hit the right hashtags, the right time, the right aesthetic. I don't know. And sometimes you're just nurturing those people that already follow you. So like they know, oh, look what Francis is doing, or look what Tim and Katie are doing.
Yeah. And I have been posting, for the last probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 months, all of our content has been haunt based, at least on Instagram. Like as far as Instagram knows, all we are is haunters. So as we transition from the off-season haunts that we've been going to into, kind of the more evergreen content of going to theme parks and some of the travel that we have booked, I actually had to make a story post on Instagram like, hey, those of you who followed us for the haunt stuff, just be aware, we're transitioning. I didn't word it like this, but we're transitioning into some theme park stuff. We do more than just haunts, and we hope you'll check out some of that additional content. And I noticed, like, as soon as I made the first theme park post, like, we lost 3 followers on Instagram, which I think is natural. Like if you niche yourself out a little bit, or if you appear to have a niche and then you transition into something that not everyone is interested in that niche, then, or a different niche entirely, like this can happen. But I would still say that like our Instagram presence is I'm so OCD about like colors and like the way that our profile looks. Like,
right. He's like,
I want to keep it purple if I'm in a purple mood, so I'll like post something purple.
He has to look and like scroll and be like, oh no, it doesn't look right.
Later gives you a preview, like I'm not sponsored by them at all, but like when you like start scheduling, it'll pull your current posts and it'll pull the ones that you've scheduled and it'll throw it like it's on an iPhone. Which is why I recommend it to everyone, because like I'm also like that. Like I want to make sure, not on my personal account, on brand accounts. Yeah, I don't follow my own things.
Good. It has to look good. Like when someone goes to my profile to see, oh, if they found a reel and they go to my profile and they're like, what is it? What else do they do? I want it to actually look good. I don't want it to be like, a bunch of noses zoomed in the preview screens, So I try to keep it interesting, but there is definitely, this is actually a perfect transition to your next topic. Practice definitely makes perfect on these platforms. Practice makes perfect. So
your first YouTube video, your first Instagram post, your first TikTok, most likely will not go viral. You could have it. Again, if I had the magic 8-ball, I'd be really, really rich right now. I would tell all my secrets to everyone, and I have so much money on social media. But like, you just need to learn, like, oh, that hashtag had no reach, or no one likes my vacation vlogs, or no one likes my vacation photos, or this type of stuff. But there's like, you're learning something from that. So if you did a YouTube video and you spent all this time, but like you learned how to take your process of editing a YouTube video from 3 hours down to 2 hours and 45 minutes, you learned something there. So practice does make perfect. So like your next video, you edit it in 2 hours and 45 minutes, maybe that one does better and you're getting faster at it. The same thing with Instagram. Like maybe you had this whole concept for this photo shoot and that one didn't work out, but the next one does amazing because maybe your caption was different, or your hashtag was different, or maybe you used a different filter, or you posted at a different time. Like no one like these algorithms are constantly changing, and luckily it's why I still have a job, because no one can figure them out. No one has the magic 8-ball, so like they are constantly learning and evolving. These platforms are constantly upgrading algorithms, changing them, interests are changing. So while you're like, oh crap, that Instagram post only got 3 likes, or oh, that YouTube video ranked 10 out of 10 in the first 24 hours, like it's not for nothing. Like initially you're like, you don't get those vanity metrics. Vanity metrics are essentially like likes, comments, stuff like that, stuff that's not like nurturing an audience. You get a little bit sad because you're like, oh, I really wanted that one. I did so much time. Like, oh, I really wanted that one to go off. But like, you have to think of it in a more positive light. Like, wow, I learned Lightroom in that photo, or I got out of my comfort zone and, you know, vlogged in public for the first time and whatnot. Like, it's not for nothing. And it's really, really hard when social media is such that instant dopamine hit. Like getting a like on an Instagram post is essentially like going to a slot machine and like doing whatever, I don't know, like this thing and seeing what happens. So like when you don't get that dopamine hit, you're like, like everything is done for, suck. And like, you just have to like be like, no, it's okay. I'll learn for next time. It's okay. Like all this type of stuff. And I feel like I really need to remind myself about that, because I get really, really mad when like things don't do well and whatnot across the yard. Like when I work on something really hard for a client and I thought it was going to take off and it did poorly, and personally, but like it wasn't for nothing. Like you learned something in the end, you were practicing skills, so you know to make better content next time. And that's why I think we keep talking about like guidelines. Like this is definitely one that I need to remind myself of, is like, one, it's social media, and it's not technically my full-time job, though I do work in it, but like my personal social media is not like my main income driver. So like it's just social media in the end of the day, but you gotta learn, like, it's just social media. It's not like I'm not basing my friendships off of this. Like I'm not basing my like self-worth off of this. It's social media in the end of the day, and like you are learning something, even if you're not getting like that dopamine hit or that result that you want.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, this might be a good place as far as like the tips that you have outlined to also talk about SEO, because you brought it up earlier as something that you definitely have to work on if you want to figure out how to like get more traction, particularly on YouTube. So SEO is something that fortunately I have a little bit of a background in, because although I did not go to school for it by any way, shape, or form, I have been working in the advertising industry for almost 10 years now. So you have to learn about SEO. Like it's part of the gig when you're doing advertising. You have to know about what words are going to rank well, what keywords people are going to be. The goal of SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, for those who are not aware, is to kind of predict what key terms people are going to be searching for on Google search engines like YouTube, which Google owns YouTube, and try to align what you have to offer, if it's relevant, with those key terms, and kind of make sure that you're the basket that people land in when they're searching for a specific thing. So that did take a lot of practice too. That's not something that you learn overnight.
There are like resources that help. Most of them are paid for. There's things like TubeBuddy, Keywords Everywhere that'll like help with these types of things. Nothing comes free, unfortunately, so these all come with paid, but TubeBuddy will tell you how you rank based on your audience and whatnot. Keywords Everywhere helps with like keyword niching. Heck, The other day, I have an idea for a YouTube video, and maybe y'all can tell me if you like this. I looked up, hi, I'm a pin creator in ChatGPT, and I want to make YouTube videos. Give me 10 YouTube ideas. And it did it, and they were actually pretty good. And I was like, maybe I should make a YouTube video about ChatGPT and how Disney creators can use it, because holy shit, this actually wasn't terrible. So it's just like learning. Yeah, SEO is, I still don't know like SEO perfectly, but it's something that, especially with like evergreen platforms. So evergreen is content that's not like timely and like current. So it'd be like Instagram tips for beginners, but like really, really broad ones versus like how to grow on Instagram in 2024. Like that one's not evergreen. And surprisingly, TikTok is changing their algorithm that they are becoming more evergreen. I've seen it on my personal account and on client accounts where older videos with certain tags are getting views versus like the more relevant ones. So I think TikTok is trying to implement those search things so people can search for specific stuff and they don't pull up the most relevant, like, or the most recent video, they pull up the most relevant one.
That's related to practice.
Yeah. Relating back to the dopamine rush.
With regard to SEO,
yes,
he probably knows this. I don't. So let's say we have a video about our most recent day at Hershey Park. So the keywords we're putting in there are Hershey Park, Hershey, a theme park, amusement park, chocolate, whatever, like all those different things. If I throw in, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a like a viral term or something, like what's something that like goes viral, like that's unrelated to the content. I don't know.
My first thought is probably like other theme park channels. Like if you would just put Tim Tracker.
Okay. I guess that's some I was trying to think of something like even more ridiculous. Like,
so I know where your question is going. So these social media networks are a lot smarter than you. Like these AI, like the AIs and the things in the background have been doing it for a very long time. So I don't know if you know this, but YouTube actually analyzes the audio in your videos. In addition to the title of your video, the first, like everything you're putting in the description, the meta tags. So if you're trying to like stuff the meta tags, but like your voice doesn't say it anywhere in the video, I don't think it's going to work in your favor. Or if you're keyword stuffing in the front end, because you do have that secondary like protection or whatever of like it's scanning your audio and your visuals to like make sure everything is in alignment. So if you're talking about Hershey Park and your title is Hershey Park and the first 140 characters of your description are Hershey Park and the hashtag is Hershey Park, but you're like, I don't know, jeans or something, or it's trending or whatnot, or makeup or whatever. I think it's the catch-all. I've never tried that, and I don't like to click on clickbaity-ish titles, so I'm not sure if it'll work in your favor.
I'm not trying to suggest you do that. I was wondering if there were like any known like consequences for doing it to like discourage people from doing it.
I mean, get shadow banned, but that's a whole subtopic on its own.
So there was a channel, a known entity in the theme and amusement park community, and I won't name it because, to be honest, I don't want to give them any traffic. But there was an issue, and if anyone's watching this from the theme park community, like you probably know exactly what I'm talking about and who this is.
Don't put their name in the chat.
Don't put their name in the chat. There was an issue at some point. Most people have heard about the tragedy that happened on the drop tower in Icon Park.
Oh, yeah.
In Orlando. So understandably, it was making the news. It was making headlines. It was a horrible, horrible incident, and hopefully nothing like it happens again. But because it was an isolated incident and people were trying to find out as much news as possible, obviously there's a whole lot of Google searching going on for this tragedy. What happened? There is a video. We know there's a video. People are kind of gross. They want to see the video. So there's a whole lot of people putting in like, the tragedy, specifically the incident, looking for information about what happened. And there was a vlogger in the theme and amusement park community that added tags to their video to correspond with the tragedy, even though their video had nothing to do with the tragedy.
Okay.
And part of why, to go back to your thing, part of why I try as hard as possible to be relevant and to not put anything at all in the tags or the meta that would lead people to, like, you know, clickbait or
Mislead
you know,
someone.
misleading tags, is because, and to tie it back in with something that Francis recommended, we use TubeBuddy. We know that TubeBuddy allows you to see other people's tags. And that's how this particular enthusiast got caught, was because other people were looking at the videos, seeing those tags and being like, that is so uncool. And if that can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And that's why you should be relevant, because you never know who's peeking at your actual video tags that you assigned to a video anyway. Not that you should, you know, not be relevant regardless, but that's why.
But if you're
that, to go back to consequences, that's a
Yeah.
huge consequence, is that people can tell when you're being shady, even if the algorithm can't, but the algorithm probably can.
I didn't realize that the algorithm or YouTube or whatever could actually be like listening and be like, you don't talk about pancakes in your video, so we're not going to let. I don't know. I don't know what they're.
The amount of information that these things, like, there's a documentary I had to watch in grad school that's on Netflix about social media, and it's why all of my notifications on social media are turned off, especially and clients. And I tell them this, I'm like, I will check your accounts when I'm logged in on my computer, but my notifications are turned off on my phone, about like what social media collects on you, the dopamine hit, and how that's like messing up our psyche and whatnot, and like how we're getting that. It's like no one's used to getting dopamine hits like so fast like that.
Yeah.
Eye-opening. It'll make you stay off social media for like a couple weeks. Like it's like a former lead engineer of Google who helped build the search algorithm, which leads into YouTube and whatnot, like just opens all. Like, and is like, this is how I built the algorithm, this is how I keep people on, this is how I've done this, and this, and you're like,
yeah, I'm
There's
definitely
also just this, like, the audience knows when they've been clickbaited and they're going to be turned off by it.
Yeah,
that's a
and
good point that I'm surprised none of us
and
noticed.
Francis has used the term like nurturing your audience. That's one way to really turn them off, is to lie to them.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have a problem with people asking like a question in a video title, like, is this the best theme park in the Northeast?
Yeah.
Or is this better than Iron Gwazi? I'm throwing out roller coaster terms because that's what's coming to mind, but that's not obviously you can do this with any niche. I don't necessarily have a problem with that unless it is straight up clickbait. Like, if the video is not going to effectively answer that question, then no bueno. But there are clickbait titles out there, like,
or if the question is answered in like the final minute of the video and I've spent the whole time watching it and it's like
the last 30 seconds. I mean, we're guilty of that too, a little bit, of saying like, the video I'm editing now, we talk at the beginning about how we're going to talk at the end about the big question that everyone has about, is this worth doing?
Yeah, but we talked about that parts of that, answering that question throughout the whole video.
Yes. Yes, it's worth diving in. We try our best not to do that, but yeah. There's a lot of layers to this, but I think the headline is don't clickbait.
Unless you want to be known for being clickbaity,
which some people are.
I will not name a certain organization that is known for being.
We have a lot of unnamed organizations in this live stream. A lot of unnamed creators.
I'm happy to name drop people and things that I support, but not ones I don't.
Would rather not drive traffic. All right. We have one more topic from Francis.
I have no idea what this is.
I'll expand the title so that, you know, she understands what she said.
So this is like throwing everything I've said out the window.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you are a like new enough or small enough creator, you can throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. So that's the spaghetti method. I'm testing it with one of the clients. It's like, oh, Taylor Swift audio is trending on TikTok. Let's see if we can find a way to relate this to the niche. The next one's going to be a time lapse of the characters that are being drawn in the show. The next one will be this. It's what resonates with your audience, because you haven't built this presence, this bigger presence, maybe only have 50 or 100 followers. You're not really known, quote unquote, known yet. So you can be like, wow, do we want to be known for pin content? Do we want to be known for theme parks? I want to do this. See what you enjoy making, see what resonates with whatever audience you're building, and then go from there. That's the spaghetti method, is just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, what the algorithm favors, what you enjoy, what you're getting good feedback on, and etc. So if you take anything out of this, if you're small enough and you're just like, I don't want a niche and I don't want to be consistent, well, just try a whole bunch of content and see what happens. And maybe you'll find something that you really like that resonates with your audience. And maybe you'll have a new niche, and maybe you'll learn to be consistent because you like making the content and whatnot. So it's, I'm not like copywriting this or terming it or any of that type of stuff. I've just kind of called it the spaghetti method. Like, you just throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks.
I like it.
Is there or do you perhaps have a benchmark in mind for small enough? Because I still consider us to be a small channel, where some people would look at our channel and be like, they're big.
Every platform is different and the definitions keep changing. So at one point in time, I was considered a micro influencer, and now I'm technically a nano influencer. We've gotten smaller on Instagram and the threshold. So I don't, like, you don't have millions of followers. I think millions of, like, if you're at a Kardashian level and you have tens of millions, hundreds of millions, I would consider that a big one. So you're not spaghetti methoding, you're not changing your brand name, you're not changing your niche. But I still think like under like 10, 20, maybe even 50,000, you still kind of have liberty, because I don't know what, there are 8 billion people on the planet or something, and 2 billion of them are on Instagram. Like, you're still a very small fish if you only have 10, 20,000 people following you. So I think the changes you make aren't going to be as like landscaping or like as big and sweeping as if you were like a Kim Kardashian or something, and Kim Kardashian decided to like start talking about like physics or neuroscience or something. Like, that would be like a big pivot. But like, if you guys tomorrow woke up and you're like, you know what, we're gonna be a family channel now, surprise, or something, like I'm not discrediting your audience, but like, they can pivot with you, they cannot pivot with you and be like as shifting as someone with like millions of followers.
I like that. This is Tim mentions this is a slightly off topic, but wants to know how some content creators that have no real schedule, not trending, very sporadic content get insane traction. And
is that just virality?
No, it's a video that I created on Instagram the other day that somehow hit all of the check marks and just did it. They potentially, by some dumb stroke of luck, created something that went quote unquote viral, and they are reaping the benefits of it because the algorithm is pushing it out to people as more people are commenting and more people are liking and more people are sharing and they're getting followers from it, but they're not building an audience. Like, I've gained 150 followers over the last like week on Instagram. I'm pretty sure all those people are going to fall off when I start posting my Disney content again or my Florida content. I'm going to an opening of a restaurant tomorrow. I don't think anyone's going to like those videos that like followed me from that stupid reel that I posted. So these people just happened to post the right thing at the right time. It resonated with someone and then resonated with another person. And they're not going to do it consistently. So that is like, they're not going to continue to hit the virality videos consistently, or like their next one's going to fall off. They just happen to work with it and they're just reaping the benefits. Whereas like, if you create the good content on your brand and whatnot, you know, like those 50 people that like it consistently, well, the next week it might be 51 and then that 51 migrates to 52, but you know, those 52 people are going to watch and like and comment. Those are real people. Those are what brands want. They don't want the like engagement rate with 1 million followers and whatnot, where your engagement rate is like -2%. They want those 50 eyeballs that they know are going to watch, know they're going to comment, and that will potentially buy or do whatever with that. So that's what you want to build. You don't want like the sporadic like virality. You want those like 50 consistent people that like will watch your video, will comment on your video. And that's what you pitch to brands when you're like, I got 50 people that you have guaranteed eyeballs on for this piece of luggage or for this hair care item or for this experience.
Yeah. In that same line of thought, we have, and this, I think this is all public, so y'all might know this, but we have just shy of 2,000 subscribers. There are some videos in our library that have 20,000 views, but you know, of the 2,000 people that we have following us, maybe 50 of them actually watched that video that has 20,000 views. So having an audience accumulated doesn't necessarily guarantee you that all 2,000 people that are subscribed to you are going to watch that specific piece of content or the specific piece of content that you're farming out. It also doesn't guarantee, like with the audience that we have, we typically, on a good day, we will have roughly 10% of our total audience watch the content regularly. That's not honestly bad from my perspective, because a lot of our content that gets like a lot of views, it was, as Francis said, it was posted at the right time. It was optimized well. People are going through Google as like an external search engine, finding the content as by way of SEO, giving us a view, which is good for, you know, ad revenue, but not much else. It doesn't actually benefit our audience building technique. What we're looking for is, if we stay consistent, if we post the kind of content that we like making, that falls within our niche, that hits all the different things that we've talked about here tonight, the 5 or 6 tips, the niche, the brand, the spaghetti.
That one.
If it fits what we're trying to do with our brand, the views will come. They may not come instantly, but sooner or later, when we have an audience built, they will go back. And we're seeing that now with some of our oldest stuff. You know, talking of theme parks, we used to do, and we will do again, we're out of season right now. We used to post occasionally like a roller coaster POV. If we got on a roller coaster and it was a really nice day and we had the cameras, sometimes we would record it and we would post it on a different day than our regular post day, because that's not the heart and soul of our channel, but it's content that we wanted to share and it's within our niche. And now, only now, years after we posted it, are we starting to see some of those videos just like retroactively get an audience. They're starting to be viewed more. We're starting to see more conversion of subscribers from that content who are looking forward to, all right, we're moving into theme park season, hoping they're going to do new theme park content. And we will. So it all kind of plays together, but there are definitely videos that are going to overperform or underperform, and they're not going to be representative of the whole. And that, I think, goes for all platforms and not just YouTube, but certainly we've seen it the most with YouTube and with our one runaway Instagram reel. Exactly one reel. And all those people dropped off anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 7 million views did not translate to any followers after that.
It was like 100 followers, but again, they all dropped off. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the spaghetti method before I move on to our last point, Francis?
No, I should trademark this. No one run away with it.
Wait, we're gonna add spaghetti method. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll superimpose it over the video later. This last tip actually comes from Katie and I, and I told Francis I was going to throw it in.
This is very Mufasa.
Remember who you are. We've touched several times over this discussion throughout all of these tips on how you have to do what works for you, and that goes for defining a brand, defining a niche, the spaghetti method. It also goes for just like your overall mental health and like keeping up with the consistency that you can manage. All of this will not necessarily guarantee you hundreds of thousands of views. If you do everything perfectly, there is still going to be somebody, probably someone you know, that will take off and pass you overnight.
Yeah.
And that is just blind luck.
I think it's sometimes just right time, like sheer, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but sheer dumb luck.
Yeah. And that's not to say that like you can't work hard and be lucky. Like there are plenty of people, and a lot of content creators that in our circle have worked their
really
butts
hard
off and still gotten lucky, and the luck is what carried them past us. But there's also like, you know, there's times when, for lack of a better term, the undeserving will get really, really lucky, blow up, and pass you overnight. And I understand better than anyone that that can be frustrating and it can be demeaning and demoralizing when you've been working really, really hard. As Francis was talking about the dopamine rush earlier, this is the opposite of that. This is like when you see someone shoot past you and you're like, man, I've been working at this for 3.5 years and the content's really good and nobody likes it. Like, it's hard. It is hard to be in that position, and it's gonna happen. If you're serious about content creation or about creating a brand or building an audience, like, this is going to happen to you sooner or later. And what is key for us in overcoming the short burst of depression that sets in is remembering that we are developing a brand and building an audience because we wanted to be a positive influence for somebody. Even if it's just one person, even if it's 3 person, even if it's 30 people, like, we wanted to create content that brings us joy, that brings them joy. And because of that, because we've been successful in doing that, yeah, we have a smaller audience because we've been taking it slow. But the audience that we have is genuine. It's ours. People follow us because they like our content. And that is worth more in the short term, at least, than having 100,000 views that don't mean anything, or 100,000 subscribers that don't actually watch anything.
When we're on these live streams, I'm looking at everyone in the comments, and even, Francis sitting here on the screen with us, like, we didn't know any of you guys like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And now we're like hanging out.
And I used to live like 20 minutes up the road from you.
Yeah. So like, we've met people and formed relationships, and I'm proud of us, and I'm happy to know all of the people who are hanging out with us tonight and anyone who's watching later. It's been I will say I don't always 100% love being a content creator. Some days I just don't. But overall, it's been a very positive experience.
More positive than negative if your heart's in it. And
we've met some great people.
We have. And just to take it back to the actual, point of the live stream too, it's a point of pride for us that we haven't cheated the system. We haven't tried to cheat the system. We wouldn't have been successful probably even if we tried, but we haven't cheated the system. We've gotten all of our followers and our subscribers organically. We've built the audience that we have. It's a smaller audience, but as Francis was saying earlier on, the 50 people that are going to watch, that are dedicated watchers, those are more important to brands than the 100,000 views that don't lead to any conversion. So it is because we have done things the way we've done things, and because we've, tried our best to be genuine and share our passions the way Tim was just saying he wants to share his passion with the world, and I think that's great.
That's beautiful, Tim.
The fact that we have the brand relationships that we have, few as they may be, is because we did this organically. We didn't try to force it. We tried to do the best we could with the tools we had in our toolkit, and we tried to focus on quality over quantity, and we tried the spaghetti method several times over, although it's Francis's phrase.
Yes.
We didn't call it the spaghetti method.
Yeah, it was some unknown concept. Now it has a name.
And I think that, Francis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the same is true for you, like the brand relationships that you have are because you've gone at it the way you've gone at it, and there has been notice of the fact that you're connecting with people.
Yeah, I think this definitely started out as a hobby, and there's no if this is just like a passion and a hobby that you want to do and you want to spend time in it, there's no issue with that. I think, I don't know, 2 or 3 years into it, I noticed that I was gaining following, and brands started reaching out, and that's a whole another a subtopic of a subtopic of how do you navigate brands and what are scams and what are not scams and all this type of stuff. And it's just working hard on the content. And now I feel now, at least in my position, this is more of not a full-time job, but it is a part-time job. It is a revenue stream for me. Creating content is more of a job and less of a passion. Now that doesn't mean I don't love it any less, or I'm not going to put any more of my heart and soul into it, but the remembering why I'm doing it is slightly different than when I started with it. It's today I'm remembering why I did it because Crumble Cookies needs a TikTok by the end of the day, or else Francis doesn't get paid. But tomorrow it might be Francis really likes pins, so she's going to film a pin YouTube video, and that's the passion part. So I think definitely remembering while you're in it, and not everyone is in the place where they are like monetizing content and are like seeing those types of things. And I hope everyone gets there one day. I hope everyone gets a piece of the pie. It's really nice to be rewarded for the content that you're making, and seeing, you know, some money come in and some products and some experiences come in, because it makes you feel good inside. But like, yeah, remembering why you do it. And even if it's touching one person, or it's making sure Crumble is happy, or it's sharing a passion for something, like just remembering why you're doing it at the end of the day is a good reason. But I feel like that's what you do with any job, is like, why do you sit in the 9 to 5 that you don't like, or why do you go work out? It's like remembering, oh, I'm working out so like I'm healthy as a human and don't get some weird disease. I go to my 9 to 5 so I can feed myself and have health insurance. So I guess you can say that for anything.
It's true. Yeah. I think for content creation, like Katie said, like there are days that are harder, and there are days that you get kicked down. And just to you know, take from recent examples, there are days when you get more attention than you anticipate getting, and the comments are really nasty, and you don't know what to do with that. But in general, I think that for us, it's been a very positive experience, and it's been a learning experience, and we're continuing to learn and to grow. And building an audience and building a brand has been a big part of our journey. And we thank Francis for some of the lessons that we've learned recently on how to build a brand and develop brand relationships. And
Absolutely.
so it's been good having you on.
has.
Just to
It's
bring
been
it
a
all
really-
home. It's been
My
great having you on.
Instagram DMs are always open. I can't offer legal advice or financial advice, but I'll try my darndest to offer the advice that I can give.
Yeah. Oh, and to put an asterisk on that too, Francis alluded very briefly to, you know, navigating brand relationships is a whole other topic, and that would have been a whole other live stream, and maybe we'll do it someday.
Talk about that for like another 3 hours.
I know, but she does have, and this is actually one of the videos that, you know, got me hooked on your content, believe it or not. Back in the day, you posted about like navigating brand relationships. So I know you do have videos on that content. Is it all right for me to send people to Dream Finding with Francis on YouTube for brand advice? Okay. So everyone should
I think that was
definitely
like 2 years ago. So some of the, like, it might be not as relevant or as up to date, but like the core of everything, like what is a scam and what should you agree to, and don't agree for $5, and free product is not always worth it. But like, yeah, the basics remain the same.
Yeah. So I'm not ashamed to admit that I leaned heavily on that particular video I'm referencing for our advice in first navigating brands, which is relatively a recent thing. Oh, Halloween Haunts 365. I will put the link in the description, but we will also be sure to, well, here, I'll just tell
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure
it's the next slide anyway.
Francis's stuff is on a slide.
Yep. Dream Finding with Francis is her handle on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest.
Yeah, feel free to message me on Instagram with any of your questions. At a certain point, if you're bombarding me, you might get the link to my consultation where I'm like, hey, at some point in time, my knowledge needs to put gas in my car or feed me. But yeah, I'm pretty much an open book. If you ask me questions, I have no issues answering it. Again, I can't give you like legal or financial or tax advice, but I will try my darndest to help navigate whatever you need to navigate. I know Tim's asked me questions like, hey, 2 different brands asked me about this. What do we do in this scenario? And I'm like, well, this is what I would do. Or like, hey, they reached out about this, and like, I don't think this equates to the time it would take to put in. And I'm like, well, tell them that and tell them I want this amount of money and see what happens.
And I will also say I try to do that sparingly because this is what Francis does for a living, and I don't want to be constantly raking her for free advice. But
again, I was like, at some point in time, that'll get.
At some point, you'll get a paywall and be like, answer this question.
Yeah, those who are interested in Francis's professional services, I can attest to the quality of her professional opinions as well as her media kit creation as a starting place. But she does all kinds of other stuff. If you're having trouble navigating social media or post times or consistency or figuring out your brand or developing brand relationships, she's a jack of all trades in that arena. So please do reach out to her. It's been a pleasure having her with us here tonight. But we do want to be respectful of her time too and make sure that she actually, has paying clients. All right. Before we wrap up, we did just want to tease our next live stream, which is going to be 2 weeks from today. That's our consistency thing. We do every other week live streams for the most part. So we are going to be doing, yes, it's after your birthday, reimagined attractions. This came about because we are actually going to be headed to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg soon, where they have reimagined the Loch Ness Monster. And we started talking. Lives on. We started talking, there's attractions that they've just torn down, and then there's ones that they've kind of like breathed new life into. And what's different? And how has that changed? And we thought there would be a lot of depth to that conversation. So we're going to be talking about that next time. But for tonight, we're going to go ahead and close it out because I know we've gone a little bit over.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 hours. I don't know.
I can keep talking. I have a whole bunch of random knowledge.
She's got a lifetime of knowledge.
Wait, one last thing from Halloween Haunts 365.
Yes, bombarding those
message on Instagram. We can talk.
Yeah, send her a DM for sure. Frances, as she said, is an open book. 2 point. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Frances, thank you for being on. We appreciated having you. And until next time, I've been Tim.
I'm Katie.
Frances.
That is Frances.
And her brand is Dream Finding with Frances. And every day
is a new adventure.
And we'll see you again soon.